Hello, welcome to the Ascender Attendance Bootcamp for new users. My name is Kirsten Boyle, and I will be walking you through the Ascender Attendance application. I am a student consultant here with our Region 10 Ascender team. And so this training will cover the basics of the attendance application in Ascender. So it's geared more toward new users or users that aren't as familiar with the attendance application. Like I said, it'll be an overview. We won't get into too much depth, but it will cover pretty extensively the application. So um, with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. So the session overview today is going to consist of about 4 parts. First, I'm going to cover some basic navigation in Ascender, particularly in the attendance application, but it is applicable to other applications in Ascender as well. So we're going to talk about what the student information tab is, how to change the application in Ascender so you can move more efficiently between applications. We'll also cover the help menu. And it's not listed on here, but I will briefly cover access to our Region 10 Ascender website for our districts that houses a lot of our documentation, and that will also include this PowerPoint and recording. We'll cover the 3 main sections of attendance, so the maintenance area, the utilities area, and the reports area. So I will go ahead and start, and I'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between the PowerPoint, but I'll stick to the Ascender application, attendance application for most of this training. And we are going to be in attendance. So when you initially log into Ascender, you will have applications listed to the left. Now, because I am a full access user, I have several applications listed here for both business and student. It is likely that you may not have quite as many as I do. So if you look and you log in and you don't see very many applications, rest assured, it's just your security access. So we're going to click on attendance, and it's going to bring us to the attendance application homepage. And so we'll first cover the student information button. As briefly mentioned before, this is available in multiple applications in Ascender, so not just attendance. So if you log into, say, registration or something like that, you may see the student information button. You'll also see the school year and the campus information listed as well, and the help menu. So these 3 features we're going to look at are in all of the student applications, or just about every student application. So just hitting this briefly, student information, it's just going to allow you to print a quick report of student information. You can generate it by school year, campus ID, grade level, and by selecting or typing in the individual student. I personally like to go to the directory, and it pulls it up based on the parameters that you have, and select the student, and it immediately loads the report. So it does contain quite a bit of information. It tells you when you've run the report, the campus, the school year, and then the page numbers, the student ID, and then all of the demographic information. So it's going to tell you their grade level, their entry date, things like that. You've also got your eligibility information, the contact information for the student. So anything that's pretty much on the Demo 1 tab in registration, which we will be covering in a separate recording. We'll also go over the registration application. So a lot of this data, while not housed in the attendance application, is pulling from registration. You've got counselor information, language, any local use codes that your district uses, promotion status, graduation types, things like that, if they're a student that's in the high school. At-risk information, parent contact information, entry withdrawal information, then you're getting into some attendance and grade reporting. So it is pulling from multiple applications. and then health records like immunizations. So this is just a helpful report if you need to generate it quickly for a student. So perhaps it would be useful when you're withdrawing a student and you want to just have that demographic or a snapshot of the student's information based on the parameters you set. Another good use for this report is maybe in an emergency situation if the student needed to be taken to the hospital and they just needed a report of their information, particularly their health information, their contact information, things like that. You can quickly generate a student information report. And then you can click exit to exit the screen. Moving on, we'll talk about this change button here, but we're also going to talk about the change application. So you can certainly, on the home page, it leaves the tab up here when you first log in. You can go and access any application from the main Ascender homepage. But if you're in a particular application and want a quick way to jump to another application, especially if you're on a particular student, you can click this drop down here. And it also lists the applications that you will have access to. So if I wanted, I'm in attendance, but if I wanted to hop over to registration really quick, I can do that and it will open a new tab for me. So that is the change application feature. You also have a change button here, and this applies particularly to this information here, the school year and the campus. Now, this will depend on the security access you have, if you have access to prior school years and multiple campuses. So again, because I am a full access user, I do have historical access to other school years and other campuses. But if I needed to switch campuses, or school years, but most particularly maybe switching between campuses, I would select it from the drop down, click apply, and then I would be in that campus. Another thing to note, when you're trying to exit an application, you don't want to just come up here and click on the X on the tab. Because Ascender is a web-based program, stuff is working in the background on the browser. So simply exiting out, or rather clicking the X on the tab, will keep that information in the background of the browser. And so what you want to do is actually exit the application using the arrow button over here. If you exit that, it will either close it down for you or it will tell you you've successfully exited the application and may close the browser tab. This just helps free up the data in the background so you don't have issues. A lot of times you may hear us, if you've been with us for a little while, you've probably heard us say things like, clear your browser cache and history, make sure that you've cleared your cache. We say that a lot, especially when we have updates, because of that very reason, the web-based programming in the background, we want to make sure it's the most fresh data. So if you're coming up here and just Xing out of a browser tab, it may be holding on to data that is not clean or not updated. Another thing we also encourage is to make sure you're only logged into one browser instance at a time. And what I mean by that is you're not opening two attendance application tabs. So because I have these two tabs open, I may not be able to save data correctly. I just want to make sure I only have one instance of an application tab open at a time. What we see frequently is if two tabs are open at the same time, it doesn't update the data and can actually also cause issues in the browser in the background. So keep it to just one tab and make sure you're using the exit arrow when you do. One other area I want to draw attention to is this help menu button down here at the bottom. It's in kind of a inconspicuous place in the bottom right corner, but it's helpful because if you're on any page in the Ascender software and I go to the help, it's going to pull up a helpful guide for that particular area of the software that I am in. So because I just randomly picked posting codes, for example, it is going to bring up the posting code page and it's going to tell me what each of the fields are in the posting code area. So if I ever forget, if I'm on a screen and I'm like, man, I don't remember what this means. What does the pre-post or the ADA code mean? I can look at this help menu and it'll tell me here. Now, it's not a magic guide that answers every question, but it can be a helpful resource if you need a refresher on something. I personally use it still to this day a lot because it can be hard to remember what every field is in every area of the software. So Ascender does a great job of keeping their documentation up to date, and you can not only pull it up in the area that you're in, but you can also access other training material. You can look in other applications. You can use the search feature if you're wanting to search a specific area that you can't find. It's also very helpful in that there are training guides for all areas of the software, both business and student. But since we're talking about attendance and we're on the student side, this is all of the training guides that Ascender has created, TCC has created as useful information to help with the processes that you'll run in Ascender. That being said, we here at Region 10 also create documentation. So we do rely heavily on the training guides we get from TCC, but as you can see, we have PowerPoints and this recording, as well as the recorded trainings that we offer that are on our website. So if you are new and you need access to our documentation, please navigate to our website and you can reach out to us to get that. But our Region 10 Ascender website, we have a lot of useful information. We have our team information listed here, but we also have our newsletters for both business and student, our documentation, as well as our training schedule. So you can access a lot of that information through our website. And if you need access, you just simply click the request access here button and fill out a request, and Miguel or Alan on our team will be able to get you access to that. But I want to draw your attention to the documentation folder, particularly the student. And you'll see we have our folders for every application and sometimes process of the software. So for example, we have an overview, annual student data rollover. Attendance application is where this information will be housed for the recording I'm currently doing, as well as the PowerPoint. So you would be able to click on the attendance application and see that documentation that we have for attendance. So you can refer back to it. And then we have other areas of the software listed here. So definitely utilize this access to the training material. So just as a recap, you have the help button. Again, that was down here at the bottom right corner. Again, you can search here or use the menu path on the left to trickle down to any of that information you're interested in finding. And then our website. So that is kind of the navigation piece. We'll go ahead and jump right into the other attendance information. So we're going to start on the maintenance section. And I took a screenshot here of what that entails, but we're going to look at your district level posting codes, some campus options, and under the campus, and then within the campus, we'll look at your gradebook options, unposted absences, your attendance calendar, how to copy and delete calendars, and some of those next year campus options. We'll also look at the student area, so the posting and inquiry, and then some flexible attendance. So we were just on that screen. We were already here for the district posting codes. Again, a lot of this information is mainly to show you where things are set up. It isn't going to entail a lot of setup because your database rolls from year to year. And usually a district level contact would be updating a lot of this. But we do want to go over it so you're aware of where things are in the software. So in district, we're talking about posting codes, and posting codes apply to the entire district, again, because it's a district level area. But the posting codes are basically used at all campuses to notate when a student is going to be absent from school or has an attendance event. So whether that's an excused absence, or they're going to court, or they're going to get their driver's license, or they're on a field trip. A lot of these codes are already set up for you, and you can add additional codes if needed. So the posting code is just a 1-character code with a description. You can choose whether or not you want the ADA code to be selected pre-post. And then the absence type is where it connects to PEIMS. So if I pull up this table, these are PEIMS reportable codes. So if I set up a posting code, rather, I can connect it to a PEIMS reportable code. So again, a lot of this will already be set up. And any new codes to be added will be added by a district level person. And you can, again, click the help to see what those mean. But we know that what the posting code is, give it a description. So the ADA code, that's one of the things we can talk about. The ADA code, and it tells you right here, if the code should be considered as an absence when determining ADA, then you would select the absence type or select the field. And that's typically used for the A and U codes. So I do have it selected for A, right? Absence type A and absence type U. So that's what that means. Pre-post is just if you want to be able to post this absence code before the actual date of the absence. So things like field trips or maybe testing, or if you know the parent calls in and says, this student is going to be gone the rest of the week, you can go ahead and if it's selected to pre-post, you can post that absence ahead of time for the student. So those are posting codes. And that's just the only option under the district area. So now we're going to move to campus, and there are quite a few options here, but not to worry, we're going to go through each one. Again, this is mostly going to be a setup that has already taken place by a district level user, designated user. But again, just to kind of show you where things are. And maybe you are the district level user that has to set it up. I'm going to change to my high school for this. So the first thing we're going to look at are the campus options. So this is kind of where you're going to set, before you can build a calendar in Ascender, you need to set some campus options. So you need to assign, or rather create a track and a description, and then you're going to want to set an instructional program type. So typically most calendars will be that standard program, but if you're maybe a charter school or you're a DAEP track or any of these other options, you want to designate that here in the instructional program type. You also want to designate your grading cycle type. Are you a district that does district and or campus, but typically It's done the same way at all the campuses for your grading cycle. Are you a 2-semester 9-week or are you a 2-semester 6-week? There is an option for 4-semester 9 weeks, but I don't believe any of our districts use that. So typically it's going to be either a 9-week grading period or 6 weeks. You also want to set your AM and PM flag. When is your ADA attendance taken? And then also setting the posting period for ADA. This is extremely important for reporting attendance and getting that ADA or average daily attendance. You would also want to make sure your first and last period numbers are set. So when is your starting period? When is your ending period? And then special programs. Are there any special programs that you want teachers to be able to see in their grade book? And we'll cover that in a separate training when we talk about teacher portal. You'll see those special program information, whatever selected here will be available in teacher portal. If you are a kindergarten campus and or you're setting up a track, you want to make sure you select that kindergarten type and then optional semester. And then the calendar operational minutes. So the calendar minutes are going to be indicated as operational or instructional based on the instruction program type. So because I have it set to standard program, the 75,600, it's showing as operational minutes. If I were to change that, oh, it's still operational. I can't remember which one has oh, there we go, instructional. So because I changed that, it shows as instructional minutes. So whatever option you select is what it will show down here as operational or instructional. And then it's very important that you do enter the number of minutes, the full daily minutes or shortened minutes. And then the alternate days area here is simply for if you're on like an AB rotation and you want to alternate days, you can set up your ADA period for that. So like if you have it second period on A day and fifth period on B day or something to that effect. You've got your retrieve button here. So I have 2 different tracks. If I need to add a track, I can click add and it clears that field and allows me to just go in and again, select that information. And then if I need to delete a track, I can do that here. Typically, you won't delete any tracks, especially if there are students tied to them. You also have a delete calendar option here and a delete track. So we'll hop down. That was the campus option. We'll come back to the campus calendar. But I'm going to hop down here to the gradebook options since we're talking about attendance a little bit in ADA. So in your gradebook options area, you have your campus options. And basically, this is where you're going to set what the default absence code and tardy codes are going to be for your teachers when they take attendance in their gradebook. You won't really have to worry about the A day, B day attendance period taken unless you're an AB schedule. We're not an AB schedule, but those fields were entered anyway. So this is where I could designate like A day attendance is taken second period, B day it's taken sixth period. And then where the alternate days area I was just showing you, that's where I would set that up. But we're not an AB rotation, so I won't worry about that. The default absence code, typically it's going to be an unexcused absence. So when a teacher marks a student absent in their gradebook or in their teacher portal rather, not necessarily the grade book. There is an attendance area in there. it will automatically default to an unexcused absence. And then if they mark them tardy, there's only one tardy code, so it will be there. So again, probably not something you have to set up, but something you could also verify, or at least this is where you know you can go if you need to make any updates. So we'll hop back over. Oh, we'll hop back over in just a second. I also want to show you the unposted absences tab. This is helpful. It's just an area to go. It'll display a report of instructors who have not posted attendance in Teacher Portal for a specific day and period. So it's kind of hard to show you because we're not currently in an active school year. Let me do this. I'm sure it'll show every teacher. But if my ADA period is 2, oh good, it did work ahead of time. And my date is the 14th, so the day after the first day of school, it's going to show me a report of teachers who have not posted attendance, along with the date and time that it was run. And so it'll show you, I don't have an instructor on some of these, and I don't have a complete schedule. So it may look a little different than what you see, but it will tell you the instructor name, obviously the period that you've selected, the course number, the section number, and the title. So this is one of the ways you can verify, okay, have my teachers taken attendance, have all my teachers taken attendance for that period. So unposted absences is a helpful report. And you can also export it to PDF or Excel. All right, so now we're going to hop back up to our campus calendar. So we went over our campus options, right? What we set here. Now we're going to go to our campus calendar. The campus calendar, so we have to have the track set up first in order to create a calendar. But the calendar is going to give us the number of days that we're going to have in our school year, when school's going to start, when it's going to finish, when the attendance cycles are going to happen, along with any holidays or any in-service days, waiver days, things like that. So again, this may or may not be your responsibility depending on your role at the campus. And a lot of this is set up ahead of time. So it's more of verifying that this is right, or if changes need to be made, you can go in and make changes. So a lot of times you may need to adjust minutes on a day, or set a makeup day, or there was a weather day, like bad weather day, or waiver day. So you can select the day by clicking on it and then just select whatever option you want to do. So if I was saying this was a weather day, I could select that and click OK. And it would change it to a weather day. Let's say I added that in error and I needed it to actually be a membership day. I can click on it, make it a membership day, and then save it. And it will take away that weather day that I just entered. Oops, let me do that. There we go. So you can go in and make adjustments. And as you do, the minutes will show you here and will be updated, or the minutes and the days. So you can see all my cycles my begin cycles are in red, and that's what's determining the membership days and the minutes for that cycle here. And then if I had any waiver days or non-membership waiver days or anything like that, it would also populate here. And then you have the option to print. And what this does is it's going to print your calendar in a report format. And it's a nice way to just view the calendar days. So you have kind of a parameter page, almost like what we were looking at here. But then if you tab through the report, it's going to break it down to like what days are your holidays and what days are your in-service days. And then it's going to look at each individual day and show you those daily minutes. So this report is really good to confirm if you need to double check your calendar days, which is so important for PEIMS reporting. So that is the print calendar. And then you'll notice the daily minutes and shortened daily minutes and instructional program type also display up here, but you can't select it. If that needs to be changed, you have to go back to your campus options and change them. And so you can change those minutes ahead of time. However, I believe either once school starts or once students are assigned to that calendar track, it does not let you change the minutes. Actually, I believe it is if you've already gone in also and have put dates like holidays and waiver days and things like that in it, it will not allow you to change the minutes until you remove all of that information. So just be aware, it might be a little tricky to change those once you have your calendar complete. But if you need help with it, let us know and we're happy to take a look at it and help you change those minutes if you need to. So that is the campus calendar. Now, you may have several calendars, several tracks at an individual campus. And so instead of setting up an individual calendar for each track, which can get kind of time consuming, if the calendar isn't going to be changing very much, and it does take a minute to load on this page, so just be aware. But if you generally have calendar tracks that are similar, or at least the base of the calendar is similar, it may be advantageous to use the copy calendar feature. So the copy calendar feature basically will allow you to select a current calendar track that you've already set up and calendar, and then copy it to a new track, or rather create a new track, a new calendar. So it is a little bit confusing when you look at this page. But here is where you're going to select the campus that you're copying from, the campus and track, and then the description is actually what the new calendar is going to be. Here is from the track you're copying from. It shows you the begin dates for each cycle and minutes. This is what is currently there for that track, but if you need to make any adjustments to it, you certainly can. For example, I just double click on there. If I need to change either maybe the last period for this track is actually going to be 8, not 9. Also, we're going to be 455 minutes and 230 shortened minutes. Then I can adjust that here. And then it does give you a little message, which we'll go over here in a minute when we talk about the next year campus options. But if you're changing any of the grading cycle types or anything like that, you also need to make sure there are track end dates in grade reporting. So grade reporting and attendance, they're not connected, but they are in a little bit in a way. Attendance is always going to be 6 weeks, like on a 6-week attendance schedule. But your grading could either be 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So it gets a little confusing when we talk about calendars and specifically grading types, especially if it's different. Like if your grading cycle is not on a 6 weeks, like your attendance, it's on a 9 weeks. That can get a little bit confusing, but there's a separate area to set up that grading cycle end date. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So this warning is just saying, hey, when you're updating a calendar, make sure that you, or copying a calendar, you're also checking and making sure those grading cycle end dates are set up. And that plays a huge role in the grade reporting, especially if you want to have grades and report cards being able to print. It has to have those cycle end dates. So that's basically what that's saying. And then down here at the bottom is where the campus tracks are specifically. So these are all the tracks that are currently set up. So the black is the calendar I'm copying from. Okay, the 001. These are all the tracks that are set up at the different campuses I have. So it's showing me one of these tracks already has attendance posted. The rest are in red, meaning there are calendar with the same minutes. And if I want to add a new track, I'm just going to click. So let's say I want to add this as track 3. I'm going to type that number in there and click enter. And now you'll see that I have a green check. So when I copy this calendar, it's going to create a track 3 for me, or calendar 3 rather. And if I needed to add other tracks to other campuses, I could do so. And then I just click copy. And now my calendar is copied. You'll notice it has different minutes, and that's okay because I updated those minutes there. But I can go back to my campus options. And now my track 3 is there. And if I needed to make any adjustments, I could. If I go to my calendar, my 3 calendar is there now as well. So same setup. I did change the minutes, but I can go in and adjust it as needed if I needed to. So that is the copy calendar feature. Very useful if you have multiple calendar tracks that you need to create. And then likewise, so it does take a minute to pull up this, this utility, this copy calendar feature. Likewise, you can delete a calendar. So I can select which calendars, if I want to delete them in mass, let's say at my 105 elementary, I really actually don't need those tracks. I click OK. And then it tells me if they were successfully deleted and now they're no longer there. So that's deleting the calendar. Sorry, I think I said delete track. This is deleting a calendar, but it's also deleting the track too. And it takes a second to pull up. So I'm sorry, I think I conflated that. I deleted the calendar on those 2 tracks. Now I can delete the actual track. So the campus options. Basically, I was deleting the calendar information, but the track, those campus options were still there. But if I want to delete the track, I can select that. And if I wanted to just delete both at the same time, what I could have done is just go to the track option and delete it instead of just deleting the calendar. So if you need to just delete the calendar, but you want to keep the track and start over on the calendar, you could do that. Or if you want to delete both, click on delete track and it will delete both the calendar and options. So now it's gone on my 105 elementary. And then something to note about the tracks is if students are assigned to a track already in a calendar, essentially, they will not, this option won't allow you to be deleted. They have to be removed out of the track first in registration in order to do that. All right, so we've gone over a lot of those things. So the campus options, campus calendar, copy calendar, delete calendar, and track, those are all applicable to the current year. So I've rolled my database into the 25-26 school year, so that's the current year for me. Now, there are next year campus options for all of these things. The next year campus options are mainly for the next year. So at the end of the year, after school's getting out, in order to roll the database, complete annual student data rollover, you have to have your next year campus options and calendar set up. So it's really the same procedure that we just walked through with these options, only it's applicable to next year. And so we do cover this as part of the ASDR training, but just to show you, this is for next year campus options. And you would add your calendar tracks here, and you would add them the same amount of tracks that you have in the current year. And you can set your information, whatever you want. And so I have a calendar track set up for next year, and then I can go in and create the calendar for next year. And then if it's the first calendar I've created for the next school year, it is going to ask me for a beginning month and an end month, which is typically August to July. And so then I can go in and set up that campus calendar. And then I can use the next year copy calendar to create all my other attendance tracks. So again, this is not something you necessarily need to worry about right now because it's all applicable to next school year, not current year. Anything current year needs to happen in these 5 areas. Next year, we'll have the next year option set next to it. And then just before I forget, I will show you in grade reporting. So we're talking about cycle end dates. If you go to the tables and the campus control options in grade reporting, there are track end dates for grade reporting. So we set in our campus options for attendance that we were on a 9-week grading cycle. Because of that, we need to make sure that each track has these semester and cycle end dates. Now, this is a little bit different when you're setting up your attendance calendar. It's asking you for begin dates of attendance cycles, but in grade reporting, it's asking you for cycle end dates. So these may not be mutually exclusive. You may start, let me go to my regular campus calendar. Right. So obviously my first 6 weeks is going to start with the beginning of school. My second 6 weeks is starting on September 22nd. But my first 9-week grading cycle is ending on October 10th. So begin cycle date here in attendance, end cycle date here for grade reporting. And if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out to us, but just wanted to let you know for grade reporting purposes, again, these 2 areas don't really intersect other than they kind of play off each other with these track end dates. We just want to make sure if you're not able to print grades and things, or maybe teachers aren't able, well, there's a lot of different reasons teachers can't post grades, but if your grades aren't looking good or you can't get them to print or you're experiencing issues, make sure that the track end dates for your grading cycles are entered here, because this can be a step that might be easily forgettable. So just throwing that out there. All right, let's move into our student posting. So under our student tab, we have 2 options. We have a posting option and an inquiry option. So I'm going to go through the student posting option. Now, a lot of your attendance is going to be entered by the teacher in Teacher Portal. However, if you need to make manual adjustments to the attendance that's been posted, or, students come to the office and they say they bring notes, or mom calls in and says, hey, I am calling in for my student, you want to be able to go and post that attendance for the student. And you have several options to do so. So we're going to walk through each one of these. So in any instance where you need to manually post attendance for a student, you will be in attendance, maintenance, student posting. So like I said, that manual posting can be done in several different ways: by period, individual, date and control number, date and grade level, date and code, date and course, and by local program. So a lot of these, there will be a couple that are just pretty typical. Individual is probably the one that you'll use most of all. But we're going to go through each of these options. So we'll start with by period. So this is going to allow you to post for an individual student or group of students if you want to type in their IDs, but for the same posting code. And you can also, I don't have anything pre-posted because I'm not technically in school yet, but in our test database, but you would be able to see if a teacher had attendance posted here already for the student. So you would just simply add in a student ID, which I hope, let me type in. And let's change that date. Let's do August 18th. Okay, so I put in a date, and then I can also select track and the period. So I don't think I have anybody on track 1 or 2, but track 1, let's say I just want to look at second period. It looks like I do have some pre-posted. What's currently posted is this, and that code is L for local testing code. If I wanted to change this attendance that's already been posted for that period, I could do that by selecting in this column the ellipsis and then changing it if I need to. And maybe it doesn't apply to every kid. Maybe it was just a couple of students. And then if I do that, I can click save. And now the attendance is updated for those students for that date. And again, I can adjust it for all periods of the day, but likely you won't need to do that for students by period. Might be a little more helpful to narrow it down to 1. And then you'll notice that when I changed that, because I put it in all periods, it did it for all periods for that student. If I wanted to change it for just that period, like for this student, I'm just going to change her first period to absent. I will use the period column. So that is posting by period. Next, we have posting by individual. Again, this will probably be the most commonly used one. And you can start typing in the ID or you can start typing in the name. You'll need to either select a semester. So semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, meaning the full year. And I believe that's also what H means, but we'll just do 1 for now. You can do a from date if you want to instead of a semester. So if I want to do I can do that as well. You can't do both. It's either semester or from date. You can select the track, and then you also have the period option, but this is applicable to just the individual student. And so the student doesn't have any pre-posted absences or any absences that have already been recorded. So if I want to pre-post one in this case, if I want to enter an absence, I would put in the date If I want to fill it across all 9 periods, I would put it in here. If it's applicable only to certain periods, I would just enter it directly on that period. And I think I get into this in a little bit, but I'll go over these attendance icons since we're already here. But you're going to have your delete button, which is a trash can icon. This only allows you to delete any attendance that hasn't been saved. So once I save the attendance, I'm not going to be able to go in and delete it. But if I was like, oh, actually, I'm on the wrong student, I don't need to do that, I can click the trash can and save it, and it will clear out anything that I had there that I hadn't saved originally. If I want to, yes, I'm going to post attendance. If I want to leave a comment, I can do it for apply it to all periods, or if I want to do it for just first period, student came in late per phone call from mom. And then apply checked. Notice that the comment changes from white to yellow. And I click OK. And then I'm not going to fill in all periods. I'll just say excused absence, and then I'll save it. Once you save it, so notice again that trash can is gone. It does display the course number down here. So these course numbers probably look a little bit different than maybe what you're used to. We have ours alphanumeric, but this SC3321 is the first period for this student. So it'll show that. It doesn't look like he's in a 7th or 8th period. So going back to that as well, so it shows this student's course right here. You can also click on the schedule and it will show that student what their schedule is, what their current classes are for the semester. Let's say I put in this absence, but actually the student was present and not absent, and I need to go back and change it. I can't just go in and delete it like this. It has to have a code. So the way to correct an erroneous absence or update an absence is to simply click on the present code and then save that. And it turns it into a present so that it takes away that absent information. So that is by individual. Next, we have by date and control number. So this is probably more helpful at your elementary campuses if you want to post attendance for a particular day for a group of students. It's going to pull anybody that is housed under the same control number. And so this might come into play if you have a sub in one of the classes and you want to take attendance for them. If they're not set up as a long-term sub or anything, you would need to select the control number and track, and then period. And I don't know that I have, oh, let me make sure I'm on a day that's in the calendar. Let's go with, I don't think this teacher has some. Perfect. Okay, so there's only 2. I am at the high school. That could be why. Only 2 students. So if they're assigned a control number, they're going to pull up if they're under. So these 2 kids have a 340 control number assigned. In fact, let me just go to elementary and see if I have any control numbers set here. And let me change the date. Okay, so a few more kids. But let's say, okay, I want to take attendance for this teacher was out. There's a sub. I'm just going to go ahead and take attendance for this class. Maybe I'll just do it for the ADA period. So then I will, if they were absent, right? If they're present, you don't need to mark anything. But let's say this kid had an unexcused absence. Then I could save that and their absence is posted there. So if I go look at that individual, if I remember who they are. Yeah, her unexcused absence is posted here. So that is by date and control number. So again, more for elementary schools and students that use control number, or campuses rather, that use control numbers to schedule students. The next one is by date and grade. So this is for if you wanted to post attendance for an entire grade level. So that might be maybe more for testing purposes, if you needed to put in attendance for testing. Let me go back to my high school. We'll do 1 to 9 again. Okay, so it's going to pull up all of my ninth graders. And so then I can go through and add attendance either for every single student, or if I know like these ninth graders, they are testing today. Or maybe it's your seniors and they're on a field trip, like the whole senior class. You can go in and add the attendance for these kids. So date and grade range is going to be applicable to an entire grade level of students. Posting by date and code. So this is mostly going to be applicable to a group of students who all have the same absence, date, track, and period. Again, I don't know how often you will probably use this particular entry, but we'll just show you what it looks like. So again, you can do all or individual, but you can pull up a specific group. And basically, you're just going to put in the absence type code. It has it right here, and then you can type in the student ID. Add a comment, anything like that, and save it. Or you can do it. An individual option would be to select the absence code and then select the student and save it. So again, typically not used as frequently, but it is another option for you. Then you have by date and course. So it's going to allow you to kind of mass post that attendance for students in the same course section. So you would select the day and the instructor and the section, the semester, and it'll pull up all the students in that course. And then you could end period because it's by a specific section, and you can go in and take attendance. Again, if they're present, you don't need to put anything. You're just adding if they're absent. So again, that could also be a helpful option if you're taking attendance for a course that has a substitute, maybe at the secondary level, where you just pull it up by instructor rather than doing control number. So control number is more elementary, date and course is more high school. And then your last option is to post by local program. So you can set up many local programs. We'll get into that more in registration, but if there is a specific local program that you want to take attendance for, maybe it's a group of students in a club that went on a field trip. You also have your other local programs like 504 dyslexia, bilingual, stuff like that. But you can set up other local programs like football or chess club or golf club, whatever, golf club. Um, you can select that local program and click retrieve. It'll pull every student that's in that program, and then you can set the code that you want. So maybe field trip, and either select students individually from the list, or if every student in that local program has this applied to them, you can click select all students and save, and it will assign that code to all the students based on the periods you set to, if it's all day or if it was just the first part of the day, then they would be assigned that attendance code. So that can be a helpful option if you're trying to take attendance for a specific program. So that is student posting. Now we'll go into a couple of other options. We talked about the comments and some of the icons. Let's talk about the print last save. Since we did just save a few attendance items, the print last save is really helpful. Kind of a feature that doesn't get noticed a whole lot, but the last save opens this pop-up window and it displays a list of the last 10 times attendance was posted. And that's from any attendance posting tab. And it's going to show you the user ID, which is me, Kirsten, and then the tab that I was on. So you can kind of see I was on individual, then date, grade, period, date and code. It's going to show a date and timestamp of when that was taken. And then if I want to view in a report format, I can do that. And it's going to show me who the student is, their name, grade level, what was posted and by me. So that is print last save. Again, it's only going to show the last 10 times. So it's not going to show everything, but there is an audit that keeps track, and I'll show you that when we talk about student inquiry here in a couple minutes. But you'll be able to view at least the last 10 times from print last save. But if you need a more extensive audit, you can go to the student inquiry and see it on a specific student. And then there is an overwrite code. So if there is attendance that I saved, let me just save this. If I need to overwrite any attendance or make any changes, well, it should have shown up. But if I needed to overwrite it, I can click. You know what? Let me go to an individual. I think it works better on this date grade. Let me do this date. Okay, here we go. So I have a attendance that's already been posted. If I go try to overwrite it with something else, it's going to come up with an overwrite warning. And it's going to say, hey, this student was coded with an E, which for us was an extracurricular in our database. The new code is going to be A. You're on the by date and grade tab. Is this what you want to do? And you need to select it in order to actually change the code to an excused absence and click OK. And then it will change it. So now it's an excused absence. So again, if I need to change or update something that's already been posted, it's going to pop up with an overwrite code warning. And then you'll have to select it in order to change it. All right, so let's get into student inquiry. We're just making our way through. Student inquiry page is going to allow you to view attendance information for a particular student. So you need to pull up the student. Trying to find that student that I had. And then you also need to enter a from date. And then when you pull it up, the first tab is going to be the count of absences. So basically, this is going to give you a summary version of the number of absences that students have for the student that you've pulled up. So it's going to tell you the type. This is the attendance type code, and then a total of what those are, both at the bottom for the individual absences and then by period, and then a final total here. So again, this is just kind of a summary page. You also have a count of tardies. So the student doesn't have any, and if they don't, it will show count of tardies like this. No tardies. If they do, it will show kind of a grid like absences. Then you've got your attendance by date. So this is going to display kind of a report format of the student's number of tardies by period. And see, as you can see, 9 periods. And then it's going to include course numbers and the absence code associated with those and the date. So the student's first period is this SC 1210 course, and they were coded on 818 with an L, 822 with an F. So I think that was the testing code for us. F was field trip, and 827 was an excused absence. And then you'll notice I did assign attendance in periods where the student doesn't have a course. So if this is blank, it means there is no course for that student. And again, this is our test database, so we'll probably run across things like this. But in your database, each student that has attendance should have a course associated with it. But this is a good report to review by date and course what the attendance code is for that. And then attendance audit. So this is where I was talking about, we did do in the student posting, we did the last save, print last save, where it shows the last 10 transactions of saved attendance. Well, now this is the actual audit. So if I ever had a question about the student's attendance and what was posted, it tracks what is going on. So you'll see my name is all over this. Go back to the first page, but it shows you the absence date, what was originally posted, if there were any comments. It shows you the date by who. So the user ID, the course, the date and time, the source, so where it was coming from. It was coming from the Ascender software. It was coming from the attendance application. And then specifically right here, the date by grade. So I was in that student posting date by grade application area. And then you'll notice date and timestamp. I went in and made changes. So this all took place a couple weeks or last week. Now I went in today, for example, and changed this absence date code to an A. It used to be an F. So That's when it was an F, and then I changed it to an A today. So it is tracking anything like that in this attendance audit, and it is very helpful to see if there are any issues with the attendance it tracks. If teachers are posting attendance from teacher portal, it is going to show here. It's going to show the teacher, the date, the source would say teacher portal. So you can see on both sides if teachers are posting attendance and if any staff are going in and updating it and vice versa. And then just to be aware, these 4 tabs, count of absences, tardies, attendance by date, and audit, these can be accessed historically by changing the school year up here if you have security to do so. So if I wanted to see that attendance for this student in the 24-25 school year, which she may not be at this campus because she was 8th grader, but there she is. So she was an 8th grader. She doesn't have any attendance data. So if she did, though, you'd be able to see that information for these 4 tabs. So just be aware, you can view that information historically if needed. All right. And then oh, I'm in middle school. Let me go back to high school so we can see that student we were working with originally. Whoa, that was jumping forward a little bit. How about 2025? All right. You have your district yearly count tab. So this is populated with a utility. And I believe it's also updated when you do ASDR, the ASDR process, but there is a utility we'll get into in just a minute. But it will update their district yearly count. So it'll just look at their days present and their ADA absent for the particular school year. And it will update it and show you a percentage. So I don't know that I ran it. I did do ASDR, so that's believe why it updated, but I can run it again. So you can run the utility, but that's what it is. It's just updating their district yearly count. The letter control area is we'll get into that more when we do our training on attendance letters. So if you're going to be using attendance letters, definitely sit in on that training. It'll be coming up in a few weeks, or it might even be next month or in August. I actually think it's in a couple months, but we'll talk about the attendance letters and how to run all of that. I'll briefly cover it here, but not in the extent that we'll do in our other training. But if you generate letters, those records, those letter controls, they're called letter controls, the record of you actually printing them will display here, and you'll be able to see what it was, the as of date, the letter type, all of that stuff here. And then cumulative is just a nice tab. It gives you a breakdown of the cumulative absences for the student if they've been in your district for the previous school years. So we do have a yearly count that kind of just gives you a general percent of attendance. This kind of breaks it down even further. So it goes by cycle, track, that ADA period, the days taught, the number of membership days, if they had any excused or unexcused absences, and those totals. And it goes all the way back to however far it will go for them being in the district. So this is pretty helpful. And again, I believe it automatically populates when you run ASDR. But you do run several processes in preparing for ASDR and in submitting PEIMS. So that information is updated. So that's the cumulative attendance, and that is the student inquiry tab. So let's hop down here. In fact, I don't think I am going over letters, but we do that in a different training. So I'll just briefly touch on it anyway. When you're doing attendance letters, you have an update and a print area. So update letters is where you can set the directory and create the letter for the different letter types. And then here's where you would print those letters. And then when you print them, they end up here in the student inquiry under the letter control tab. So like I said, those will be covered in a separate training with a lot more detail. So stay tuned. We'll just briefly cover flexible attendance. It's likely not many of you will be working with it because it's more of a PEIMS reportable thing, but I just want to show you where it is. Um, Basically, it's your, well, under flexible attendance, it's your weekly register worksheet. So it just allows you or whomever at your district, usually the PEIMS coordinator, will record any flexible attendance for PEIMS reporting purposes. And so you'll enter the track, the cycle, the week, and then enter a record here with these minutes. We'll just do cycle 1, week 1, add. And then you put in the student ID, name, and then fill out the following information. So you have to note your district has to be a TEA approved OFS PD or an HSEP in order to have this information. So again, this is more of a PEIMS coordinator, but if you know you're doing flexible attendance and you are a PEIMS coordinator listening to this, this is where you would enter that in. And then you also have your additional days. So ADSE, again, your ADSE options and attendance. And believe that's for the extended year submission, which we have separate documentation for that. So since this is a basic boot camp, we won't be covering all of that, but that is our maintenance area. So we went through all of that good stuff. Refer back to the PowerPoint as well if you have questions. There's some information on there about that we just walked through. So that brings us to our next area. Let me just scroll through here, which is our utilities. And again, this mostly, there's only 2 utilities. We have our district yearly count, which we just talked about, and then our update delete letter controls, which I won't cover because it'll be covered in the attendance letters training, but pretty simple, straightforward. Oops, I'm in grade reporting. I'm just gonna sign out of that tab. So again, update delete letter controls will be discussed at a different time. The district yearly count. So this is the utility I was talking about that you can run under the student inquiry, that district yearly count. Here's the utility you can run for it. You would set an as of date, and then you could do it for a specific campus and grade level or even a specific student. But if you want to do it for everyone, you can just calculate the attendance days based on the as of date. And you can run this multiple times, but notice at the bottom, it says it updated 2,342 students. So let me go look at that student. All right, so yeah, it already updated for 24-25, but I don't have any attendance for 25-26. So it's not going to show anything. So again, you can run this at the end of the year, beginning of the year. I do believe it calculates as part of ASDR. But that is the only other utility you have in attendance. So that is easy peasy. All right, and then making our way through, we'll go over these attendance reports. So we're not going to cover, oh, I'll just mention this since it's in the PowerPoint. So you can run it again throughout the school year. If you want to like run it at the end of first semester to kind of see where you're sitting, or see where specific students are sitting with their attendance, and then you can run at the end of the school year as well. So that was the yearly count. All right, so talking about reports, there are quite a few attendance reports, so we're not going to go into depth on all of them. But I am going to show you some that are important to run and just kind of what's available to you. So we have our regular attendance report, and they're broken down into 5 areas: audit, campus, membership, rosters, and students. You also have create attendance reports as well, which is more of a customizable option. And then I'll also go over the reports by time of year. So helpful reports for, especially if you're at the campus level and you're wanting to um, maintain your attendance information. There's some reports that you'll run at different times of the year that'll be helpful for you. So we'll get into that. But we're in attendance reports again. Here we have, I'll click all if I want to pull up all the attendance reports, but you can also select the specific report group if you want to just see those reports. So for example, here's my audit report group. These reports are, like it says, auditable. These will be the reports that you'll run and use for documentation, from like if in case you ever get audited by TEA. These are also reports that are good to run. And again, it depends on your role at the district and how your district operates. But if you're going to be the one running it, or your PEIMS coordinator likes to run these as well, it just kind of depends on how it rolls. But in any case, you've got the big ones that you're going to use are things like your SAT 0500, your campus attendance summary, the student detail report is huge. These teacher membership rosters are big ones. The campus district summary report and the multi-track summary report. Those are really good auditable reports to run. And again, I'll show you here in a little bit, pretty soon, what reports are going to be helpful at which times of the school year. But just to let you know what these are, audit reports. You also have some campus reports, like your daily attendance report, something that's good to run on the daily, your attendance campus listing, and your 6 weeks FTE report. And if you ever want to know more about these reports and what they look like, or what information is housed, the help button is really useful for that, because it does break down. For example, this report provides daily and monthly membership counts and an ADA absent count by grade level for the selected school year. And then it breaks down each of the fields in the report parameters and basically what it's looking at and how you can run it. So the help guide is very useful in the sense that you can actually look at these reports. Something else I'll bring up too. So not every report can be run historically. We mention a lot in some of our other trainings, particularly with ASDR, because you do have to run certain reports before you roll because they're not available in historical school years. But if a good indicator if a report is going to pull historical information or previous school years is if it has this ending school year parameter on it. So if it has that, that means I can type in a school year, ending school year, and it will pull that information for that school year. If it does not have that field, that means it's only available in current year. So that's why we do recommend, especially on some of these audit reports, they're only available in current year and should be run. And there are steps and procedures that we go through at the end of year and getting ready to roll the database for annual student data rollover to make sure these reports are run. So again, that's more of a PEIMS role, but it could be different at your campus. Do what your district and campus people have advised you to do. But just letting you know about that option. So if it has the ending school year, and that goes for any report in Ascender, if it has an ending school year, it means it will pull that information from that school year. Membership reports are super important. You've got your district attendance and contact hours, your campus and district recap reports, membership summary. If you use attendance zones, which we get into in the registration application. Ironically, it's not in the attendance application, but it is in the registration application. Mostly attendance zones are going to impact um, more registration information anyway, because it's um, based on where the student lives if you're using attendance zones. So there is a report if you need to see the detail report for that. You've got your rosters. So attendance roster information, like your class attendance roster or class attendance verification. This one is used quite a bit. Um, and then your daily class attendance roster. So mainly focusing on roster groups for teachers and classes. And then you do have your student reports. So again, a daily attendance summary, a student attendance summary, something specific to a student. A lot of times you can run it for a date range or an individual student, semester, stuff like that. Especially like the detail attendance audit by student will allow you to print it for a specific student. So these are all good reports. And I will show you again in a few minutes where that reports by time of year. Some of the ones that are going to be the most helpful to you to run at different times of the year. Um, okay, so we talked about the attendance reports. Now we'll talk about the create attendance report area. So this is an area that you can kind of customize any attendance report. Basically, it's just taking fields from the attendance application and allowing you to customize it. So um, most of the applications in Ascender have their own create report area. I believe the only ones that don't are test scores and graduation plan, but the other student applications have, and business, but again, student side have this create report feature. And it's always going to have the demographic information. So you can pull the school year, the campus ID, student ID. You want that identifiable information on the report so it knows who to pull. But then you'll be able to pull things like absences and period by posting code, attendance by date and period here, the yearly count and the letter control. So a lot of those fields, I mean, it's not going to pull calendar information, but a lot of those, pretty much almost every field from the student posting and student inquiry tab is going to be available in this report, and you'll be able to um, pull any specific information that you want to pull and customize a report. You do need to give it a title. If you want to make it public, you can do so by adding the title here, making it public, and then in the directory, anything that's public that's been created by another person in the district, it will be here as well. And then you can use that. And then create the report. We'll create it. And it will typically have in the heading, it'll have the date that it's been run, the campus ID. It just tells you the page numbers. It gives you the title of the report. So this one was ADA. And then these are all the fields that were contained in the report. You can use the sort and filter options to filter down the information and just resets the sort and filter that you've created. You can also export it to a PDF or Excel from the create report. So that is create reports. And then I'll go back here to our PowerPoint. So we talked about the attendance reports, create attendance report, and then attendance by time of year. So I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit, or try to, so you can see it a little bit better. But this is basically broken down different time frames throughout the school year. So at the beginning of the year, this also includes registration and grade reporting reports that'll also be helpful to run. The SAT is the attendance application, SRG is registration, and SGR is grade reporting. But some of the reports you're going to want to run at the beginning of the year include that registration. In registration, there's a print button on the calendar that can verify the calendars. You've got your attendance proof list, and then some grade reporting reports or attendance rosters if you want to print those for teachers. The student no-show report is a good one to print after the first day of school so you can see who are the no-shows. We talk about no-shows more in the registration application. That is a registration report, actually, so that would make sense. The SAT schedule of age grade distribution is helpful, or that SAT 0400 daily attendance summary. So something that you could run at the beginning of the year. That SAT 0400 is also something that you want to run daily, just to verify your entries, withdrawals, and any ADA absences. And then you also have your SAT 0500, which is your campus attendance summary. So that will help you kind of spot any irregular period absences. So like if there's a gap in maybe students attending class, like they were there first and second period, weren't marked third period, and then fourth or sixth or eighth or ninth that they were there. So those are some of the daily ones we recommend. Weekly, we recommend running the SAT 1700 entry withdrawal summary report to verify any changes in enrollment. The end of each 6 weeks, we've got that attendance audit report. So that's to help clean up any attendance errors. The student detail report just again verifies information and totals on a summary page what that attendance is. Also, your campus district summary and multi-track summary reports are helpful for that, as well as your daily attendance report and your class attendance verification. And then you could also do your daily attendance audit by course. Again, these are all just to verify at the end of each 6 weeks. Helpful to do that periodically so that you don't come to the end of the semester, the end of the school year, and have a lot of errors. You just can keep on top of it. And then the end of the semester, or first and fourth 6 weeks, you've got your teacher membership roster. This is helpful for the teachers because you can run it for the ADA period and they can actually verify the attendance that they've taken. They can sign that report and return it. You've also got your campus recap report, and these two usually should balance. End of semester, the SAT 0900, that campus district summary report. So you'll notice some of these repeat. Oops. And then your end of year, another campus district summary report, your teacher, your teacher assignment audit report is more grade reporting report and registration. But you can run, that SAT 0900 is going to be one of those that you definitely want to run at the end of the year. And then it's not limited to this list. You can run any other reports that need to be checked due to the verified changes. So again, there are tons of attendance reports that you have access to that you can run. So your district PIMS coordinator or your campus or other powers that be may want you to run additional reports, and that's totally acceptable too. These are just some of the recommendations that we run reporting wise based on the time of year. And so with that being said, that brings us to the end of our attendance boot camp. Thank you so much for attending. And if you have questions, as always, please reach out to us. We're happy to help and we're here for you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.